was... He did, Emily said as pleasantly as she could manage, which, frankly, wasn't very pleasant at all. But I'm afraid I do not. The patient's gaze drifted toward the door to the women's ward and the rest of the cottage hospital beyond it. She lowered her voice. Do they not permit it? After her lauding of the founders, the patient's candid question was heartening, but it was also hard to answer. On the one hand, Emily hated to let someone mistakenly believe anyone had power over what she did outside this building. On the other, however, she had a reputation to uphold. The true answer to that question wouldn't help it in the slightest. Something like that, she said without a smile. Trying as it was to half-work in a hospital where the patients called her my dear, even as they complimented her skills, it was better than making house calls. As Emily knew better than anyone, houses had ghosts. Ghosts that could multiply should a physician fail in her duty. It was bad enough when a ghost was made in hospital, seeming to wail as she wiped their blood and her shame from her hands, and then following on her heels for weeks. Ghosts made in homes didn't just follow the doctor. They stuck around for the family to deal with. Forever. She would know. While rational, educated Emily did not actually believe in ghosts, the fact of her disbelief had never spared her from their effects. Take her study, for instance. She had a lovely little study to retreat to after she sent Mrs. Hatpin on her way and walked home at the end of her shift. A woman like Emily needed a practical place for penning research papers, for keeping up with the thoughts of modern philosophers and religious critics, for the carving hobby that kept her hands and mind healthy. But it had once been her mother's sewing room, still haunted by the chests of fabric and the dressmaker's dummy that father had not allowed her to relocate. Still, the study was more her own than any other part of the similarly haunted cottage she shared with her father in the quirky village of Farncombe, Surrey. She sat in her rocker only partly shadowed by the dummy behind her, letting the day's shift melt from her fingertips as she put them to the task of carving a chess piece. When dragging a knife along the rough edges of a bishop in the making had finally soothed her soul enough, she put her carving things away, shook out her apron, and got the broom in hand. Along with her books, her writing supplies, her whittling knives, and the assortment of pieces that came from the union of her hands and those beloved implements, Emily always kept a broom in her study to sweep up the wood shavings. Tidiness couldn't eliminate the ghosts, but it did keep them quiet. She swept carefully into every nook. It was incredible how dust could accumulate in the span of a day. So innocent and invisible at first, but eventually gathering into fluffy balls that bred like the guinea pigs they kept in the garden. Occasionally, she still encountered a button or needle that had rested in the groove of a floorboard since God knew when. As she tidied up the edges of her small dust pile, a knock came. She knew whom it was and tried to ignore him, hoping he would go away. She'd have liked a few more minutes to prepare the place before the riskiest sort of ghost of all, a living one, could sneak in. "Ems?" he called through the door. She leaned on the broom handle. "What is it, Noah?" "Can I come in?" "No," she whispered to herself. But her childish reluctance was uncharitable, and if there was anything Emily hated more than dust, it was thinking herself to be uncharitable. She opened the door just wide enough to bring her face to face with her twin brother. Though one would never know it from the way Papa saved him a chair in the garden, or had the cook continue to order a little extra, as if Noah might surprise them any day now, it was his first visit back to Farncombe.